when I created The Body You Deserve, I guided people through this process. And I'm going to kind of give you a shortened version of that here, just so you have an experience of changing your emotion. Because here's what I want you to understand. Why do people do anything? Why do they eat? Why do they drink? Why do they smoke? Why do they yell at somebody they really love? The reason we do anything is just to change the way we feel. And you know what? As an example of food, so often people are eating or overeating. What they're really trying to get is a feeling, a state change, an emotion shift. And what's interesting is it rarely works. It works for the moment, but then it disappears. That's why they got to eat more. Well, this is true of not only eating, but almost anything else. What you have to understand is what you're really searching for is a change in the qualities of sensation, the quality of emotion that you're feeling in a moment. And the only reason you're taking any action, whether it's to buy something or to try something or read or learn, is to make that change, to change how you're feeling, and or to give yourself the ability to do that in the future. But again, let me tell you the secret. If we don't have a target for what our desire is, if we don't consciously decide how we want to feel in a given situation, then we leave ourselves open to be triggered by whatever's happening in the moment, by the environment, by the smells that may be nearby, by what people say. In other words, if we don't direct our experience, if we don't have a very, very clear target and have a set of rules about what it takes to know we've hit that target, then we might be winning and feel like we're losing simply because we're not keeping score. I've said that so many times in these tapes with you, but there hasn't been a tool to actualize it. See, let me complete the metaphor with food, and then I think I can broaden it, because I know you probably keep hearing, well, what is a quality quantifier? The scale? Well, hang in there with me. We'll get to it. Hang on. Let's complete the idea around food, because I think you could probably use it in this context. At that point, it was still an urge management tool. It was, here's how you decide to change your emotional state. First, prove to yourself you can change your emotion, that you can go from totally wanting something to hating it in a few moments. And you know what's interesting, by the way? When you do this, when you go up to plus 10 and you give yourself permission to increase your desire, that's really good. It allows your brain to know, hey, that's not so bad. I can do that, and I'm in control of it. And you start noticing how you increase your desire. Again, you may discover the way you increase your desire is to think about things in terms of scarcity. Or you may determine that the way you do it is by focusing in depth about how great something's going to be and imagining it's a taste or what it's going to feel like. Or you may discover that the way you increase your desire is to add things to the experience. Noticing your pattern of increasing desire, you can take that same understanding and increase your desire to exercise by all of a sudden doing something else while you're exercising, maybe listening to music, or by changing your focus and imagining how you're going to feel at the end. In other words, once you discover the pattern of how to increase your desires, you can even apply it to things that you once thought were mundane, like making your phone calls or doing your paperwork. And that's when we're getting into the quality quantifier. But also, are there certain things you shouldn't do, certain distractions you shouldn't get involved in? It might be useful for you to find out what is the pattern that you use to lower your desire to do something. Is it to distract yourself? Is that how you do it with food? Is it to get focused into something else? Is it to imagine the negative consequences of something? Is it to add something else to think like, oh, it's bad enough I got to make these calls, but I got to talk to Mary Sue too? Oh my gosh, now I feel overwhelmed. Now I'm at -5. Are you starting to follow where I'm taking you? See, the key to making long-term change is to understand our patterns and then to utilize those patterns rather than make them wrong. To interrupt the patterns that don't work and to utilize the patterns that do. And the truth of the matter is, there are places in our life where we must increase our level of desire, and there are places in our life where we want to lower it. Beginning to become aware of how we do these things gives us an incredible amount of freedom because it puts us in control. Before I explain how to do this in any area of your life, let's do this simplistic scaling process, if you want to call it that. Let's do it with a piece of food. Let's have you go get a piece of food that you really like a lot and put it in front of you and actually practice this. Let's start to use it. But by the way, get a piece of food that you really want a lot, but don't get something you want so bad that you eat it before you turn the tape back on, please. If you're in your car, pull over to a kind of place that you would normally eat something you know is not so good for you. That's right. One of those, you know it's not good for you if you can drive through it. That's usually the first clue, okay? So just pull over and go to one of those places and grab some of that food you normally would, really, really want a lot, but you know is not so good for you, so I can show you how to make some changes. Stop the tape right now till you get the food in front of you, because I want to make sure you do this. You don't just listen about it. Here we go. Okay, are you ready? Got the food in front of you? Listen, if you're still just listening to me and you didn't get any food, pull over and go get some darn food. Come on. You don't want to listen passively. Then you'll have an intellectual understanding. I want you to feel this in your body because it's going to give you a sense of control like you've never had before. With the food in front of you, let's do this. What I want you to ask yourself is, on a scale from -10 again, this is the most disgusting, filthy, terrible, horrible, cancer-causing, chemical-filled thing you would never even dream of having in a billion years, to +10, the most exciting, delicious, desirable, wonderful, ecstatic food on earth that you must have right now. 0 being neutral. Where are you? Just decide right now. Decide right now, what is the quality of your desire? And if you were to quantify it with a number, where is it? You say, well, where is it? Is it level 2 or 3, 4 or 5, 6 or 7? I'd be willing to bet that your level of desire for this is somewhere in the range of 3 to 7, maybe 8 on the outside. Now, where are you? And wherever you are, let's do it. Let's increase the amount of desire you have for this. You go, Tony, I don't want to do that. I'm already good at that. Well, let's see how you do it. Just stop the tape and imagine, what would it take for me to want this even more? If I was at level 5, at level 7, what would it take? What would I have to think about? What would I have to focus on? What would I have to feel? What would I have to imagine smelling? What would I have to add to it? What would I need to do? Stop the tape right now until you've got that done. Okay, so now you've gone up. Let's say you're at level 7 as an example. What did you do to get here? Again, notice the pattern and think. Is there any other place in your life where you have a hard time getting pumped up to do something, or you have a hard time getting yourself motivated to do something, where you could use a similar pattern to make it more enjoyable? Interesting. Now let's ratchet it up 2 more. If you're at 7, take it to 9. Now if we add 2 more and that puts you over 10, well then use 10 as your number. And what I want you to do right now, again, is stop the tape and do whatever it takes so that you feel, well, you have to have it. You got to have it right now. Don't eat it just yet. I know if you get yourself really to 10, literally the urgency may be at the level to absolutely grab it, but just wait until you turn the tape back on and I give you the next instruction. So stop the tape and get yourself up at least 2 more numbers. Okay, welcome back again. So again, the obvious question, what did you do? What brought you from 7 to 9 or whatever number you were? What allowed you to increase your level of desire? What was the pattern? What'd you do inside your head? What'd you think about? What'd you feel? What'd you ask yourself? What'd you focus on? How did you focus? Did you make the image really bright and colorful? Did you bring it close to you? Did you imagine being with somebody else and having a peak experience? Did you imagine it was the last one? Did you imagine if you didn't have this one now, there wouldn't be any left over? Did you imagine this was your last chance? What did you do? Begin to notice the pattern. And lastly, if you're not already there, put yourself at level 10 of desire. Stop the tape until you're there and you really absolutely want it right now. Okay, so I assume you figured out the pattern in this one already. You don't need me to guide you through that. So let's do the following. Take yourself from +10 in your level of desire and take it down right now to 2, +2. What would you have to do? And by the way, if you're so overwhelmed at level 10, just break your pattern. Take a deep breath in, focus on something else, forget about this food for a second, turn on the music, think of something you did when you were 5 years old. I don't care, anything to break the pattern. Think of a joke you once heard, turn up my voice so I'm a little bit louder, right? Do something to break your pattern, okay? And then bring yourself now down to level 2, +2 on a scale from -10 to +10 in your desire. And as you do that, think about what would take you there to just +2. Feel how you'd be feeling if you're at +2. Put yourself there. Imagine using the technique you've come up with. And when you get to +2, the obvious question is, what did you do? What did you get yourself to do to go from wanting it that bad to having mild desire for it? Yeah, that'd be pretty good. What did you do? What did you do to lower the intensity? And you did it drastically. Now that you're there, go to 0. What would put you at 0? What do you have to do to have 0 desire for it? So it's neutral. It's not like you want it, you don't not want it. Just, it's not important. What'd you think about? What'd you ask yourself? What are you doing right now to get it to 0? Actually do this. Don't just listen. I want you to feel that you can really pull this off, that you can go from total desire down to 0. Now, by the way, sometimes it takes people a lot of time to do this. If that's true, please stop the tape. It doesn't matter how hard it is to do initially. Once you've done it and you know how you've done it, you'll be able to do in a few seconds what you found impossible to do before, which is to change your level of desire in a heartbeat. Now that you're at 0, notice what you did again, and then take yourself down to -2. That's it. -2. What would you have to do to make it -2? And if you start thinking to yourself, oh, I could never do that, I could never get it where I don't want it. Well, if you could, how would you do it? Create the possibility. Dig around. There must be a way. Commit yourself to finding a way to get it to -2. Now, what'd you do to get to -2? Did you start imagining this having some negative side effect? Did you imagine this particular food in a way that made it smell differently or made it look differently? Did you focus on some element of the food where like grease was, or it was unattractive looking if you really paid attention to it? Did you think about, what it might do to keep you from achieving some goals you had? What did you do to make it -2? And notice if there's a pattern here that you might be able to use in some other area. Maybe it's being fearful, being angry, or being overwhelmed, or snapping at somebody. Is there a way you could use this same pattern and make those behaviors totally unacceptable to you? Now move it down to -5. Go ahead. And if you need to stop the tape, do so. Get it down to -5. What would it take for you to just be so disgusted by this that it'd be at -5 on a scale from -10 to +10? 0 is neutral. -5 is you absolutely can't stand this. You would never do it in a million years. Again, what are you doing to get there? Stop the tape until you're there. Fabulous. So what did you do? Again, this can sound redundant. I keep asking the same darn question, but we need to know. And is there a pattern? How did you increase your aversion for this food? How did you make it even more distasteful? How did you make the idea of it even be this negative where you don't even want it? Something that was +10 just a little bit ago. Continue with this process. Go to 7 and eventually get yourself to -10. And again, stop this tape until you're absolutely -10 where you couldn't even imagine putting in your body in a million years. It was just absolutely the most horrible thing you could possibly imagine. What would you have to add to it? What would you have to imagine? What would you have to believe about this food? And what it would mean to consume this food for you to be having it at -10. And again, this may be such a foreign idea. It's very difficult at first to get to, but work at it. The ability to get yourself there, everyone has it. Do it right now and turn the tape back on once you've gotten to -10. All right, you've done it. You're at -10. That's great. And this is something you used to absolutely have to have. Used to was like about 2 minutes ago, right? Now you're at -10. How did you accomplish that? My guess is that you either added something to it that would smell so bad or think so bad, or the mixture of the two is so horrible. Like a lady who liked chocolate, then she took clam juice and mixed it in there in her mind. Just the thought of that process did it to her. One woman, for example, thought about the fact that if she ate a particular food, her husband wouldn't get to have it. And for her, that would mean not loving him. It would be like the loss of love. People do weird things to this. Lots of people make it so they think of it like a poison, or they think it's going to cause them to clog their system with fat or develop a heart attack or a stroke. If somebody starts to think that this is something that is poisonous, whether there's a loss of health, a loss of freedom, a loss of energy, a loss of love, total loss of enjoyment, such physical distaste that it just made them want to vomit, anything like that, of course, people do at -10. And there are lots of ways to get there. Now, here's the key. You can go to any level of desire you want with this food now. Just right now, without even putting a desire, just think about the food and see where you go. Having gone to -10 and +10, what most people do, most people can find themselves in a positive range of 2 to 5 usually, but not much higher than that. Even if they are higher, they know they can go down immediately. If you've actually done it, and I sure hope you have, then you've experienced how quickly we can change the quality of our experience just by making a decision at what level of quality we want to have. That seems technical in language, but let me clarify again. What you did is you set a target of quality of feeling, a quality of sensations you wanted. And then you quantified. Now, what does the word quantify mean? Well, part of the definition of quantifying is to measure something, to make explicit what it would take to do there. So you quantified. You said, okay, I want to have a level 7 experience. You gave it a numerical rating. And that level 7 represented a certain amount of quality of feeling you wanted to have about that food, right? Whether that feeling was something of being turned off to it or being turned on. But also part of quantifying or measuring is making explicit what would you have to do for you to feel this way. That's what a quality quantifier is. Now, again, this sounds technical. You don't have to understand the exact words. Just give it a label, and let's discover what I'm really talking about by using it in another context. Here's what happened. After I started doing this with people, it was magical. First of all, I loved it. I started out just calling it my urge management tool. Hey, I can change my urges in a minute. Give me a piece of food. It was fun. Let me run it at the flagpole of desire. Let me run it down into the dirt. I don't want it at all. It felt so good to be totally in control and to show other people how to do it. And it was so interesting. At every dinner I was at, I was showing people how to do this, and people would kind of go into trance and go, wow, that's really great. I can feel the difference in my body right here and now. So then I got so excited about it, I said, okay, how do I generalize this? Is there another area besides food where I can use this urge management tool? Maybe it's more than just urge management. So I thought, well, I'm using the scaling system. What is it about that works? And then I got it. And it's like the bulbs flashing off of my head. Listen, the number one way to increase the quality of your life is to raise your standards. See, that's how life changes. If you've listened to me before, you know I've talked many times about the 3 things that change your life long term, not just for the moment. Number 1 is raise your standards. Raise what you demand from yourself. Raise what is a must for you. None of us get our shoulds. We should lose weight. We shouldn't eat certain things. We should be happier. We should have more fun. We don't really do it. We just should all over ourselves, right? But we always get what we must have. So what this great thing about this tool is, we're deciding. We're flat deciding this is what I must experience. I must be at level 5, or I must be at level 10, or I must be at -5 around this idea or concept or food. And then what we're saying is what has to happen for me to get there? And you know what? This employs 2 tools. Raising your standards, getting very specific about what you want, and then asking the right questions. And asking you shall what? Receive. I began to realize this tool, by setting a target and then asking myself what has to happen for me to be there, is causing me to raise my standards, and it's causing me to ask the questions that give me the answers I need to actually experience what I want. In other words, you could have always hated this food. You could have always loved this food at whatever level you want. But unless you take conscious control, you end up with whatever the world gives you. In essence, what we're doing is simply this. Realize, to succeed at anything in life, you got to have a target. If you're not clear on what your target is, you're going to find yourself being pushed around by whatever happens in the environment. You're going to end up with whatever the environment pushes you towards. So we're deciding on the quality of experience we're committed to. And then we're saying, what's it take to get there? I call that a quality quantifier. It's quantifying the level of quality that you want for some experience in your life, right? And then figuring out what's it going to take to make that happen.